Please, guys, let's make this a discussion. I don't do well giving a traditional lecture. I prefer to just talk. One thing I want to put out there with us being kinesiologists, exercise scientists, specialists, from a professional to clientele standpoint, we can't diagnose, treat, or prescribe nutritional models. We're not registered dietitians and can't develop a protocol for legal reasons. I'm not going to encourage you to prescribe any supplement or nutrition regimen. That's not what we do. And it also puts a lot of liability on us as the professional, right? When we're working with a client and we tell them to go and do something, we are giving them advice that could make or break their health. That's a lot of responsibility. So I'm going to get into a little bit about me really quick. I'll get the housekeeping out of the way, but I'm going to also preface this lecture I made 4 years ago for the NSCA, their national symposium. I had the honor of going and speaking with them every year with a bunch of strength and conditioning coaches. A lot of the guidelines that you're going to see me go through, I might just skip past. NSCA guidelines are very similar, but also very different from AXIM guidelines. When it comes to a lot of this stuff, it's going to be more sport specific than just AXIM or exercise science, exercise physiology oriented. Anyway, a little bit about me, really brief background. I got into fitness at the age of 13. My dad got me a pull-up bar. I was the chubby kid in middle school. My nickname was Fat Ass. I wasn't huge. I wasn't insecure. That was kind of like what spiraled me into getting into fitness. My dad got me a pull-up bar and I started running. It became my challenge to try to do as many pull-ups as I could. Every time I'd go in and out of my door, I fell in love with the science behind why my body's changing. Can I do to maximize this, growth, these gains, so to speak, right? This performance. So I became kind of the nerd behind the scenes. I had the opportunity to work with a lot of really awesome doctors, coaches in the realm of bodybuilding. And they taught me a lot at a young age. And so I'm very, very grateful for that experience. I pursued higher education at Winthrop University. I started out in dietetics. Nutrition science was what the program was called at the time because I didn't want to become an RD. I wanted to work in the research setting. I went through a bunch of loopholes with that. They told me that I couldn't do that in their program. So I switched to kinesiology and blended my degrees. So it was really cool. My advisor really hooked me up. I have a unique title on my degree. But anyway, none of that matters. Fast forward, as we know, dietary supplements are not regulated by the FDA. And that gets a bad reputation for good reason. We want to make sure there's some kind of governing body and standard for what we're putting in our bodies. And so in the nutrition science side of my degree, we stayed away from supplements. We didn't talk about it because, FDA doesn't regulate it. I understand, but I would love to learn more because there is legitimate science and information behind a lot of these ingredients. And there's a lot of that can benefit us. So I was actually very anti-supplement, anti-nutraceutical until I got a part-time job at a little store called Rock Hill Nutrition. And he changed my outlook on the supplement space. You guys ever been into like a GNC or like a vitamin shop? Vitamin shop's cool. But at GD, you go in and there's someone who looks like me behind the counter, probably tatted up, and he's going to be wearing a tight polo, way tighter than this t-shirt, trying to sell you every test booster, every creatine and pre-workout under the sun that you don't need, right? And so this guy, my mentor, I call him, he really altered my perspective on what it means to be an honest supplement store environment, right? Like I'd witness him tell people, don't waste your money on that. Like, dude, just here's some protein, go on. And so he altered that. And I actually got inspired me to start my own thing. And that's really what we do. That's my really quick hit background. The nutrition store was started as an environment to educate people, not just simply push a supplement or a pill on people. So with that being said, I've had the great opportunity to work alongside Kaipo and a lot of other amazing professionals over the last few years, whether it's me being the coach to a bodybuilding athlete, a powerlifting athlete, strongmen. I've had the chance to really consult one-on-one with these people. It's been awesome. So with that being said, we're going to go through some of these outlines that I've created. If I seem confused reading my own lecture, it's because I made this 3.5 years ago and I'm trying to rejog the neurotransmitters. So peri-competition nutrition tactics and improvements. This is from the coach perspective, right? How do we address potential pitfalls in our athletes' nutritional strategies? Because we're not their dietitian. The only thing we can do is kind of consult with them, ask them how they're feeling, what is their recovery is like, what their sleep is like, what are the pitfalls, right, of the per competition nutrition in athletes. As our role as the coach, we have to stick to the basics. We can't write them a diagram saying at 8 o'clock a.m. you need to take your curcumin. At 9 a.m. you have to take 5 grams of creatine monohydrate. That is illegal. But like, seriously, we can't do that. It is important to understand energy system requirements. You guys have all taken exercise physiology at this point, right? So we know the ATP-PC system, we know the lactate system and the aerobic system. Understanding those three plays a huge role in how you guys understand supplements. We can analyze their food intake and go over a food log with them, but we can't make prescriptive advice. It's good to have a relationship with our clients to where they're willing to be open and vulnerable with us, what they've been consuming, right? And just go over it, you know? All right, so what are supplements? Are supplements necessary? What's effective? What isn't? This is one of my favorite graphs, right? I use this a lot when I'm teaching, when I'm talking to people, understanding the importance, because in my space of nutraceuticals, we have a really good tendency to create some really attractive marketing. You guys ever heard of Alani Nuke? Ever heard of Ghost? Bucked Up, maybe? C4 Athletic Greens, Ag One. They're not that great, and I'll get into that in a second. But here's the thing. I'm saying all that. I'm bringing up those brands because they're really good at branding. It doesn't necessarily mean they have the best formulations. My industry does a really good job of making you guys think that supplements are equal to energy balance, right? Like they're not, all right? The most important thing to consider is never put the cart before the horse. Food intake, recovery, and training, stimuli are always so much more important than your supplements, all right? And I say that owning a supplement store, owning a supplement company, but I don't want to bullcrap you guys into thinking that they have that vast of a difference in your overall performance and your client's performance. So I love this chart. I think it puts a lot into perspective for the magnitude of importance. So why do energy systems matter? Obviously, each sport, in this setting, we're going to say each client, right? Each need, each population, depending on whether we're working with a geriatric population, a perimenopausal population, which has been a big part of what I've been working with lately with ladies, even pregnant populations. It depends, and you understand the energy systems, you're going to be able to understand how to appeal and direct the programming for your clients, whether it's their periodization structure or even the recommendations you make for supplementation or just suggestions. So basically, we are going to be talking about the 3 macronutrients, how they play a role in energy provision, blah, blah. I put that up there to make myself look cool. This was in front of a lot of professors, a lot of PhD strength coaches. I think I went into much more depth in the original lecture, which is on my YouTube channel. If you guys want to watch the whole thing, don't do it. It's boring. So obviously ATP-PC, my favorite energy system. Anybody have a guess why? Dude, exactly. So it's the creatine system, right? And so we know that creatine is produced in the body endogenously. We store enough of it to create about 8 to 10 seconds of immediate bursts of power output. Not only that, but it's involved in a lot of cognitive functions as well. We're starting to see a lot of meta-analyses come out about anti-depression support, right? Helping prevent cognitive decline, decision-making, even in populations where there is severe lack of sleep, right? Insomnia situations, we see cognitive improvements through high doses of supplementation there. Understanding the creatine system, the ATPC system, a lot of quick power burst outputs, right? So if you're working with a client whose goal is to improve their broad jump or their starting strength, right? Starting strength is an important component for all kinds of athletes. What is that initial burst like? What are their pivots like on the field? Obviously, things like creatine monohydrate with over 3,000 human studies done in the last 30 years showing positive effects on human performance. Might be a good thing to say, hey, client, have you considered looking at the data on it, right? So anyway, anaerobic glycolytic, the lactate system, the carb system, whatever we want to call it, guys. Anaerobic without oxygen, anaerobic with oxygen. Glucose, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are food, source of energy. Carbohydrate supplements have come and gone in popularity. Largely, they're not necessary unless you're working with an elite athlete who has a training period of longer than 2 to 3 hours at a time. I don't think you should recommend a carb supplement. Just tell them to eat a banana and, properly time their food. Okay. Aerobic system, oxygen is present. I do like to get into the pre, peri, post training nutrition, understanding that a little bit. Obviously, depending on your client's needs, what's their medical background? Are they diabetic? Do they have even hypoglycemia? Understanding what training you're going to be putting them through. Is it strength training? Is it endurance training? Is it more cross training, right? Is it calisthenics, right? Understanding the stimuli based on the 3 energy systems that we just talked about. What's going to be implemented the most for your client? Like, what are you going to be leaning into the most with the training that you're giving them? Can determine how you want to recommend them refuel post-training, okay? If you guys are having them train for a 5K, I don't think that recommending a scoop of whey protein immediately after their run or their running session is probably going to be the most beneficial for their recovery, because if they're running 3 to 4 miles, maybe less, maybe more, we'll just say 8 to 10K for sake of argument, they're not recruiting the need for protein to be consumed, right? It's more of a carbohydrate heavy thing. So just, understanding that. And like I said, guys, I made this for the coach in themselves. If you aren't working with athletes, I apologize. Just try to hear what I'm saying and convert it in your brain to whatever you're dealing with. All right. Also, just a little side note, we all know what healthy food is innately, right? It's not hard to look at a bunch of different food options in front of us. We all kind of know, what's the right option, But healthy food, clean food, big air quotes there, because what is clean, right? Everything's a chemical, often means it's high in fiber. And so I encourage you guys just to keep that in mind. If you're working with an athlete or a client and you're going to have them go do an endurance type training session, or even a strength training session, telling them to eat a bunch of broccoli and oats and even heavy, protein sources like steak or chicken right before their session, that is going to negatively impact their performance. That's just a little side note, because fiber actually slows down your digestion significantly. It's great for your heart. It's great for your GI tract. It literally feeds the bacteria in your small intestine, but it also takes so to break down and process. Your client's going to feel like they're carrying a baby. They're trying to go on that run. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing a nutrition analysis with your client and they're showing you their food, you had 3 servings of oatmeal, a bunch of quinoa, couscous, and spinach. No wonder you ran straight to the bathroom halfway through our session. So it just helps put some context to it. So this is another thing, guys. I don't know how long ago y'all took Phys 1, but I know that
reviewed this very heavily in the first 5 weeks of work.
Well, then good.
This is how much it makes, how much it matters. Why we talk about it so much.
It's crucial.
The world is super crucial.
I don't know about how it's presented these days. I'm 29 now, so I think 8 years since I was in my Phys 1 and 2 class. When I was in there, we often talked about the 3 energy systems as if they were mutually exclusive. It was almost like once APPC is done, that's where carbs take over. Or once the lactate system's done, that's where oxygen starts to work. They're all working at the same time. Just think of them working together for different specific portions of that, movement, whatever it might be. So I always like to say the creatine phosphate, our ATPPC, that's the nitrous in our drag car, right? It's there the whole time. It's pushing that gas straight into the pistons, but it runs out quick. Right? If we're taking creatine, we're giving ourselves another tank of NOS. So just think of it that way. Don't ever think so polarizing. Don't put yourself in that category. I did it early on when I was working as a strength coach, where I was thinking okay, well, their creatine stopped at 10 seconds. Maybe I need to encourage them to eat more carbs before their session because their creatine was done and they didn't have enough carbs. It doesn't work that way. All right. So, okay, we've talked about ATPPC, creatine, not necessarily talking about prescriptive creatine supplementation yet. We can get to that discussion in a second. Anaerobic glycolytic, glucose, carbs, aerobic, that's oxygen. Aerobic does lean heavily on the anaerobic glycolytic system, especially when it comes to nutrient timing. If we can preload carbohydrates before an endurance-based activity, we're going to enhance the effectiveness of the anaerobic glycolytic system and thus enhance the performance of the other 2 energy systems along with it. Because remember, they're not mutually exclusive. High school athletes, peri-competition. I conducted a survey of multiple different high schools in the area a few years ago based on what the athletes of the sport did the most. This was a totally different concept. I don't know if it applies to you guys, but I had all the strength coaches report to me what their athletes were eating before a football game, or before. Most of them are eating fast food. And if you're working with young athletes or young populations, like if mom just picked them up from school and came straight over to the performance lab, make sure they're not walking in with a bag of Popeyes or Chick-fil-A every day. Obviously, a strategy for you as the practitioner. We don't have much data on what goes on in our patients' or clients' home life. It's not our business. We're not their therapist. We don't really know. But especially in the youth setting, depending on the income status in the area, it might be a good idea to have some kind of refeeding on hand as the professional. Might not hurt, especially depending on the setting you're in and whether it's the hospital setting. I don't know what the funding would be like there. I know that in a lot of independent settings, especially post-school strength and conditioning facilities, the funding's decent. It's private. So they're going to have food for these kids, especially like baseball clinics, even MMA facilities. I know of personally that keep protein bars and snack bars for their kids after school to refuel with. All I'll say about prescriptive food when it comes to making recommendations, the best thing you can say to your clients is balance. Eat your meals balanced. Why do I have such a generic statement with that? Like we said at the beginning of our conversation, we can't prescribe a diet. Even if we could, I don't know if you guys would want to, because the liability comes heavily with that. Your client's health is in your hands. If they're allergic to something and you didn't do a full workup and have a bunch of legal documentation protecting you, they can sue you. And you don't want that. Balance. What does that mean? When you look down at your plate, you want to see a combination of macronutrients. There are technically 6 macronutrients we consume. If you guys had to take a nutrition class, name the macronutrients. First one, carbs and protein. Anybody know what the other ones are? Not necessarily. It's technically a carbohydrate the way we classify it. Any other ideas? Alcohol. Ethanol alcohol is a macronutrient of its own. It has 7 calories per gram. That 7 calories per gram cannot be actually processed by the body and utilized as an energy source. That's why when alcohol is consumed, the body temperature elevates. It's a toxin. It is trying to burn those up really quick, right? Technically, water and oxygen are macronutrients. Any nutrient that has to be consumed on a macro level in order for us to survive is a macronutrient. I like to throw that curveball because people don't think of the water and oxygen thing, but those are macronutrients, okay? Back to the balance thing. We're going to go for 4 factors here when it comes to balance. We want to look at our patient or our client or athlete's plate and see a combination of protein, 30-35% of protein, and carbohydrates, 30-35% carbohydrates. Typically, if the protein source is solid, you don't have to include a fat source of its own. Like you don't have to throw an avocado or an egg yolk on the plate. You can, assuming you have the right enzymes in your stomach, right? Enzymes are proteins that help your body break down the polypeptide chains of the protein itself. But it also depends on the source of protein too. A lot of plant-based proteins are not bioavailable inherently on their own. So you do need a lipid or lipase, amylase, protease enzyme to help your stomach really open it up. D3 has to be seated within a fat in order to even be broken down. Calcium can't be absorbed without vitamin D. We want the balance. Fiber is important, but it depends on the timing of their meals. If you look at their pre-workout meal and you see a bunch of fiber, you don't want them bloated. You don't want them feeling distended, but it is good for them to consume about 25 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories that they consume. That is not the RDI recommendation. That is the Nutritional Science Association's recommendation, which tends to be a little bit more current. Yeah, 25 grams fiber per 1,000 calories consumed is the general recommendation in their total daily allotment. This is my favorite part. This is where I specialize, guys. Nutraceuticals is not really a specific science of its own. I've kind of self-assigned that to myself because you can't take a class or get an actual certification on what nutraceutical science encompasses. It's not FDA regulated. Therefore, a lot of the data we conduct on supplements is BS. It's often said, you guys ever heard correlation is not causation? It's a common thing in science, right? So when we take a study and I ask you guys a bunch of survey questions, ever heard of beetroot? Common ingredient, common food, nitrates. If I gave half of you beetroot and the other half a placebo and you didn't know, it was blind, controlled. And the only that I collected data on the outcomes was to ask you, all right, I gave you that beetroot. How was your performance? Was it good? Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? There's implicit bias going on there. It's survey data, right? That doesn't tell me any causal link between why the beetroot was actually helping the client. So when we look at studies on supplements, guys, keep that in mind. Go look at how the studies are conducted when you're doing your homework. How did they come to these findings of improved performance? Did they give you a why or a how? Or did they just say, hey, we observed these outcomes based on the survey responses of said people? I feel like I'm crapping on my industry, but they deserve it. All right. So with that being said, what are supplements? What's the word supplement mean, guys? It is replacing something that our normal lifestyle would not otherwise bring us. In my field, especially in bodybuilding, males between the age of 18 to 25, they all feel like they have something to prove. They want big muscles. They think it's going to get them women. Newsflash, it doesn't really help that much. Actually, my wife absolutely hated the fact that I was 260 pounds when we first met. I've been on the downward trend of getting leaner and healthier. But with that being said, they supplement your lifestyle. They're nothing special. They're nothing fancy. If they were, they'd be called PEDs. Vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbs, fats, anything that we've discussed could be a form of a supplement. Now we get into other things in the nutraceutical base that I wouldn't call a dietary supplement. One of which I get a little bit of pushback, and I argue that creatine isn't a supplement. And here's why. In order to consume enough creatine in your lifestyle, you'd have to be consuming like 5 pounds of red meat a day on average. To get a super saturation effect of creatine, you'd have to eat that much red meat on average a day. And we know over countless of studies, not just in vitro, we've actually seen muscle biopsy data showing the improvements that creatine monohydrate supplementation can bring. There's no amount of red meat you're going to recommend your client to eat that they can either afford or have their stomach handle every day to get enough creatine to get those performance gains. So I say things like that, like creatine's not really supplementing anything. I'd say it's a performance enhancer because most people are not going to consume that in their lifestyle. It's going to be almost impossible to. It can be done, but it's not going to be done. And I say that for a few other things, like y'all heard of ashwagandha. It got popular. Shout out to TikTok. It'll be back in a few years, just like every other thing that circles the drain on that app. We do really well on TikTok, but I hate it. We do great business-wise on there with the content because I do these things called TNS takedowns, and I just destroy charlatans. Gary Brecka, for example. I really love to go after unscientific people. He's the guy that says you can wave a metal spoon around your water and it's going to ionize, charge the electrons in that water and give it an extra atom of hydrogen and therefore make you feel younger. I've been doing it for a few days and then that's when I went boom. TikTok brings up a lot of these other herbal type supplements. Another one, Shilajit. Shilajit got popular. If you're a dude in here and have TikTok and you've seen those AI ads talking about being an alpha male testosterone wolf, Shilajit is not really a supplement because they're not something that you would otherwise just consume on a day-to-day basis. Even if you lived in the Middle Eastern areas where those things naturally grow, you're not going out and harvesting them and eating them. So they do provide benefits beyond what our overall nutritional needs would give us. Problematic. Supplements can be problematic due to my industry. We like to make these products look sexy, really amazing, really beneficial. Most of the time, they're not doing all that. They're unregulated by the FDA. The Food and Drug Administration, I have my quarrels with, but I also have my appreciation with. I do admit that we need regulation and governing to an industry like this where we're putting things in our body that can affect health. I'm not a fan of how the FDA picks and chooses what ingredients or what companies it's going to stand behind in regulation. I'll just give an example of my contention with the FDA and then we'll move on. In 2021, the FDA red listed 2 natural herbal ingredients, N-acetyl-L-cysteine, NAC, and tauroursodeoxycholic acid, TUDCA. NAC is a prodrug to glutathione and has been shown through many trials to help support immune system function. A pharmaceutical company filed a patent request on NAC and TUDCA. 2 days later, the FDA stripped it from shelves because the company had filed a patent to make it a prescription drug. Both of those, for the right people, can provide a myriad of health benefits. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I get very suspicious and question why the FDA picks what they pick. You can't overdose on those. Anything your body doesn't use from the TUDCA or the NAC, you're just peeing out. That made no sense. That's what the FDA. Supplements are not necessary for your patient, but if certain symptoms arise and you understand a little about nutrition, I'll give you a cool resource at the end of today that is free and has peer review backed sources that stand on business. for you. I'm going to give this to you guys and y'all can use it for your clients down the road. What actually works? We're going to cut through the bogusness. Vitamins and minerals work. We know that there are about 40 different vitamins and minerals that we can consume daily, play a role in our health. If you're deficient in certain vitamins, you would display symptoms of said deficiency. There are well over 100 symptoms. There's well over 30 different vitamins. We're not going to get into all that right now, but yeah, vitamins and minerals work. One little caveat I want to throw to the vitamins and minerals topic really quick. The source matters. If you're getting vitamins, if you're getting minerals, no offense to CVS or Walgreens, but typically pharmacies are going to offer the most cheap form of said vitamin or mineral so that they can make the highest profit margin. And here's the problem when it comes to cheap sources of minerals. Anything bound to an oxide compound, your saliva destroys it. Magnesium oxide cannot be absorbed in the GI tract. Calcium oxide, pointless. It's cheap. Your saliva destroys it. If we wanted to correct a magnesium deficiency, which in 2020, 4 out of 5 collegiate age female athletes were deficient in magnesium, which should be taking something that actually gets in our body, right? That in mind. Whey protein is the most optimal source of protein that the human body can consume. This is uncontested. This is not me saying this because I sell whey protein. I'm saying this from a scientific standpoint that in the 1990s, the entire nutrition science world had to change its standard for measuring the quality of protein because we discovered how amazing whey protein is from multiple perspectives. Prior to the 1990s, egg albumin was the most bioavailable, superior source of protein that we relied on. And egg whites are great. But whey protein is the most optimal, the most complete, but has the highest yield of essential amino acids out of any protein source in the world.
They're not made.
So we have to consume them from food. The body is really brilliant at synthesizing its own amino acids. And then there's conditionally essential amino acids that your body can make in trauma situations, like glutamine, for example. It also has the highest bioavailability. Anybody want to give a quick definition of bioavailability? In supplements, it means the ability for your body to break down and harness that ingredient. If the bioavailability is high in the world of supplements, my body is using all this, not just pooping or peeing it out.
Protein with lactose tolerance.
Great question. What is lactose? It's a sugar that comes with milk, and lactase helps lactose break down. If you have an intolerance, your stomach doesn't produce lactase on its own. When we say whey protein, we make that connection in our head. It comes from milk, right? It stems from milk. But does it inherently mean there's lactose in the whey protein? No, it doesn't have to. If it comes from milk and we're looking at pure whey protein isolate, is there lactose in that? No, because it's been stripped and purified. Now, if we look at things like whey protein concentrate, 80% of whey protein concentrate is pure protein. That leaves 20% for other stuff, including lactose. So if we get an isolate, more specifically a hydrolyzed isolate that is above 90% purity, there's no lactose left. This is a great question, man. What most of my clients and customers are going to ask when I show them a whey protein. They're going to say, well, lactose, it messes with me. My question and response is, okay, well, like how bad is it? We kind of figure out what their needs are. 9 out of 10 people that we recommend an isolate to with an added lactase enzyme already in it, because a lot of the proteins that I work with already have the lactase thrown in just to be safe, never have issues. So the first step, guys, when you're talking to your clients about their supplementation or their nutrition, and they tell you they're lactose intolerant, recommend an isolate before going the vegan route. Vegans' proteins are not bad. They're not evil. I know I'm a red-blooded meathead guy who's bald with tattoos, so I'm probably supposed to say screw vegan stuff. I'm not saying that. But I would go the isolate route first because of the availability. The absorption potential is so much better from a whey protein. Creatine monohydrate, most researched supplement in the world. That's why creatine phosphate is right there. And that's why all the other essential amino acids are right here. Is my nerd arm. Most researched supplement in the world, hammered that one into the ground, what creatine does. Other ones that actually work, beta-alanine. Anybody taking a pre-workout in here? You know what I'm talking about? Beta-alanine creates this effect called paresthesia, a tingling sensation, and a building block to an amino acid called carnosine. Carnosine helps buffer acid accumulation in your muscle cells during training, specifically within the 40 to 60 second time frame of activity output. I like to think of relay racing on track and field type events. Getting a boost of performance during that 40 to 60 second time frame has been shown significantly from beta-alanine supplementation to be effective. Does that mean you should be telling your clients to go take beta-alanine because they suck during 40 seconds of their set or something? It's good for you guys to know and understand that beta-alanine has a decent amount of data behind it. The benefits from beta-alanine aren't received until the tingle goes away. When we take a pre-workout, you get that paresthesia, the skin itch, kind of the redness. You're not getting any physiological benefit from that feeling. That's just your body receiving it. Similar to creatine supplementation, where there's a saturation period, beta-alanine has a 5-day saturation period. After 4 to 5 days of taking that pre-workout with beta-alanine, you don't feel a tingle anymore. This pre-workout sucks, or I'm used to it. That means it's actually working, right? You're just not feeling cracked out, but you shouldn't anyway. The purpose of a workout should be to work out, not to be cracked out. Caffeine, extremely.
Beta-alanine, you extend that aerobic window, run for longer.
Based on my understanding of the data, between 40 to 60 seconds of activity, we see an improvement in AD provision, endurance loosely. Between 40 to 60 seconds, the threshold for power output can improve. Let's say we're doing vertical jumps, a box jump activity for 120-second rounds. Let's say they're doing a 36-inch vertical for the first 40 seconds. The potential to produce that 36-inch vertical between 40 to 60 seconds can become 42-inch verticals because their power output improves and their ability to sprint and jump improves. So power output within that time frame. I'll send the data, the resource I'm going to give you guys, it'll go over it. And if you uncover something that I don't, tell me about it. I always want to learn too, guys. So if y'all come across some new information, or if I'm saying anything that is like, hey, that's a misinterpretation of what I know, call me out. I want to make sure I'm correct in how I'm presenting this to you guys. I don't get that a lot in my setting. It's a retail store. So most of the people that come in, I'm the expert, I'm the bodybuilder, I'm bigger than the dude who's asking me questions, most likely. So he's not going to contest me, but I want to be corrected. All right. Other potential effective supplements. Well, I'll give a big deep dive on these guys because they're important, but they're not for everybody. L-citrulline. Stay away from citrulline malate. It's a fake ingredient. Ever look at a supplement label and see something with malate added to it? Citrulline malate, caffeine dimalate. It's made up. They're taking 50% of one ingredient, 50% of another ingredient, putting them together and calling it another ingredient. And that's how sketchy the supplement industry can be. So when you see citrulline malate on an ingredient label, if you've taken a pre-workout before, it's 50% pure citrulline, 50% malic acid. Malic acid, cool, but it's usually just used to flavor pre-workouts. It gives it that bitterness, that tartness, but it really is not an ingredient. It doesn't provide any extra benefit. Same thing with caffeine dimalate. It's fluff. It's just there to make the product cheaper and make it look sexier so you guys will buy it more, right? So betaine, trimethylglycine, that's a very interesting fluid regulator. It also helps with the absorption and regulation of creatine within our muscle cells. Love betaine in the digestive health. Bean plays a big role in pepsin production and pepsid in our stomach, which helps regulate acid balance. If y'all ever get GERD or acid reflux issues, look into some research on bean. Alpha GPC, significant improver of cognitive health. Rhodiola, one of my favorites, is now an endangered species. We're not allowed to manufacture with it and use it. Sad day. I'm having to remove that from some of my stuff. It's a pretty impressive adaptogen. Adaptogen in supplements means any ingredient or herb that helps your body regulate and adapt to stress. Really cool stuff. Ashwagandha is another big one. What have y'all heard about ashwagandha?
Sure.
All right, that's a good one. What else have we heard? I know we've heard other claims. Have you heard anything?
Oh, no. I heard that it mess with your pleasure system.
Yeah.
Amount of time.
He's not talking about that kind of pleasure necessarily. We're talking about serotonin, right? So here's what ashwagandha does. It helps regulate cortisol, stress. Cortisol is the godfather hormone. It's one of them, at least. Cortisol converted from cortisone can convert to any other hormone in the human body. We see it as the stress hormone, but it has a downstream effect that can convert testosterone, estrogen, more cortisol, high stress. It helps balance out cortisol levels so that it can help you feel less stressed in otherwise stressful situations. The pleasure system thing comes into effect when we consume ashwagandha for longer than 6 months. we start to see serotonin deficiency situations. If any of you or your clients are on SSRIs, antidepressants, or anti-anxiety drugs, keep them away from adaptogens until they've talked to their medical doctor. And that's the beauty of being a kinesiologist, being an exercise physiologist, especially if you're working in the medical setting. If they have a question that you don't know the answer to, and especially if it's nutrition related, talk with your doctor. Ask your GP. They're the only ones that are legally allowed to give that kind of advice anyway. So common deficiencies, these are things you want to look out for. This has given me good information to build from here, but look into what symptoms to look out for with each deficiency, right? You're going to be working one-on-one with these people. And I think the vitamin and mineral deficiencies are so important to correct. If your client isn't aware of what they might be lacking, it's good to know what symptoms to identify or ask about. For example, if they say they're tired or feeling down lately, seasonal affective disorder might be in play. Knowing those symptoms are present might be worth a conversation about vitamin D. Yes, these are the most common deficiencies you'll encounter, but more importantly, know how to address them. Am I going to fact check you in your homework? No, but I'm going to hunt you down and make you submit a report. No. Red flags. These are very important for you to understand and be aware of because my industry is very sketchy and unregulated. I would stay away from any product that has crazy claims across the front. Sadly, that's what most of my customers gravitate towards. They go for the colorful tub that says build muscle, burn fat, improve XYZ, become alpha. I want people to enjoy the ride, but I also don't put anything else on it. It just says pre-workout and then all of my FDA disclaimers. My supplement company is called Enjoy the Nutrition. Every product I make is enjoy something, right? So we have enjoy the hydration, enjoy the ride, enjoy the lion's mane mushroom, enjoy the vitamin D, enjoy the creatine. It's all enjoy. Be careful about the claims you're seeing on the label. They mean nothing. After going through so many SFP and FDA audit conversations with my manufacturers, it's the Wild West. Legally speaking, I'm allowed to put anything I want on my label. I can say anything I want about my product. I can say that it is going to make you gain 40 pounds of muscle. And I don't have to face legal ramifications for it, which makes it a very sketchy industry. I try to be totally against that kind of behavior. But as you guys as the practitioners, what you're looking at, just be aware of those things that are said. Also, stay away from proprietary blends. I'm not a fan of proprietary blends. Back before 2005, before the internet really got going, supplement sales on the internet were not there yet. Back in the day, there was so much information just readily available at our fingertips. I understand why proprietary blends were beneficial. If you make a product, a supplement, and it works, people love it, and it's giving the benefit they want, I get it. I wouldn't want another company stealing my amazing product either. So they put the ingredients under this mask like a blend and say Super Matrix Power formula. They're telling you what's in it, but not much of each ingredient. Over the years, it's become less necessary to do that because I can pull up the internet and see different formulas and information about each ingredient. So at this point, what's the point in making yours hidden versus mine transparent? It's all a level playing field now. Over the years, though, that's become an easy way for companies to slide PEDs, narcotics, methamphetamines into products without telling you. In 2014, the FDA rated 50 different manufacturing facilities, both in the United States and Canadian territories, because they were manufacturing with fluorinated methamphetamines. Have you ever heard of Jack 3D? It was a very popular pre-workout. The U.S. Army had quite a few deaths from people taking that because they went out and drank too much alcohol the night before, woke up, drank a product that had pretty much meth in it, dehydrated themselves, and had cardiac arrests while at PT. Okay? Now here's the thing. I'm very literal when it comes to what you do with your body. If you want to take a supplement, if you want to take a drug or consume something, by all means, what you do on your property with your life, do it. What I'm not a fan of, though, is companies lying about that ingredient being in there. We should be given the truth about what's in it. We should know that what we're about to take could kill us. All right. And if that's what we want to do, that's not my business. Maybe you should get help if that's what you want to do. Stay away from prop blends. Long story short, here are those ingredients we were just talking about. And these are my one hitters on what to know. If you don't know anything else, Here's your little chart. Here's your display for what to look out for. These are ingredients I want you to stay away from. If a client brings these products and you see any of this on there, just be careful. I'm actually a pretty big fan of these first three. 1,3-dimethylamine is a derivative of an amphetamine, but a much more mild one. It's actually been shown to be beneficial for cardiovascular health when consumed in moderate doses, an impressive performance enhancer. But humanity and moderation don't get along very well, right? Like, we do things that destroy us. If we get that good feeling, we're going to probably take more of it and end up hurting ourselves. I'm a fan of them in the right situations. If your client brings you something, they're like, hey man, my buddy at school in the football locker room gave me this stuff. I don't know, I'm getting stronger. That is shutting down their natural testosterone production. That's literally a steroid. It's just masked under the name of a SARM, a selective androgen receptor modulator. It sounds a lot safer when it's a pill, right? Instead of the injection. It's not, all right? So these are things that actually are technically legal. Like, legally, you can acquire these, right? And legally, I consult with people today about all of these because they're going to do it either way. If they're not going to do it with me and get my advice and look at their blood work with them and make sure they're healthy, they're going to go ask the internet and ask Reddit how to do it, right? I'm not saying this to say that these are bad and you should just shame anybody who has these, but there are at least things to look out for. So that little chart's just a good thing. Prefixes and suffixes, if you see those in front of or suffixing a word, it could be a steroid or it's something derived from meth. So just be careful, right?
Oh, that third question, or the second question, were good supplements or bad? First, the exercise being good, or for less relevant versus more relevant. Just think that answer for everyone else to be exercise based. Nutrition is.
I'm trying to tie it into a client. Really, it's been forever since I've worked with a prescription model. Do you want me? And if you want, I'll just send you the PDF to this after. Okay. So that's my email. Make sure you shoot me an email if you have questions. Seriously, I will answer any question you have to the best of my ability. If I don't know, I'm going to send you to somebody who I trust that knows. This was more NCAA. It just goes over what we just covered on the previous slide. It just is going into more effectiveness. When it came to NCAA and NSCA, their national conference, we had to get into drug testing, urinalysis, and clearance rates of certain drugs. It gets kind of crazy. But if any of you are getting into the sports performance side of exercise science and want to know more about this stuff, shoot me an email. We'll talk about it because that's the side of the spectrum I come from. Another thing, these are steroids and SARMs. SARMs are steroids. And I'm saying that 3 times because if you're ever working with a young person, high school athlete, it's easy to market something and make it seem safe and healthy because it's a pill. Have a higher likelihood of destroying your body than any injectable PED ever has. Why? Because our liver and kidneys have to break those things down. And hormones are not orally able to be absorbed. Your liver has to process them multiple times over to activate it. Every time it processes through the liver, it is destroying it. Now, that's not me condoning the use of injectable steroids, but just because it's a pill doesn't mean it's, well, I'm very open about my use in the past. If y'all have a client that you're dealing with that is like, hey man, I did this, use me. I was the dummy who was 21 and had just gotten out of a bad relationship and decided that I wanted to go full hog on a lot of things I shouldn't have. And that's why I was not proud of it, but I learned a lot from it. And I try to use that experience to hopefully prevent other young men, especially because I know what it's like to be that age, 21, heartbroken. You want to prove the world wrong, right? It ain't worth it. Here's another thing in this industry that does a really good job is masking ingredients to make them look like they're something they're not. Mucuna purines is L-Dopa. What I was actually looking to show you guys was 3-deoxy-7 keto DHEA. That is a way to say something called aromatase. Aromatase is an estrogen regulator, an aromatase inhibitor. It can help lower your estrogen, so therefore your testosterone goes up. By no means is it a good thing, though. It's great for performance, but it will make you piss hot on the drug test as an athlete. Things to look out for. You guys passed that. That was the 2018 to 2019 banned supplement. I wanted to touch on this really quick, and then we'll ask a few questions. Just because it's on a ban list, it doesn't mean that it can't be consumed. I'm not saying to go behind the rules. Creatine monohydrate was on this list. There is no way to test for creatine monohydrate supplementation. But why? Because your body makes it. So you're just testing your blood or urine for something your body already makes. The only way to actually know if somebody's taking creatine is to do a muscle biopsy. I'm not cutting a piece of your muscle tissue out to test it to see if you're taking that little rinky-dink supplement. When you see these lists, guys, when you see WADA banned or WADA approved, NCAA banned, NCAA approved, come through it. See why. What's their reasoning for it being on there? That resource I was talking about is called examine.com. Examine.com is the world's largest database for unfunded literature reviews on dietary supplements. Unfunded means the owner, Dr. Kamal Patel, refuses any outside funding to write literature reviews on these ingredients. So he is going strictly off of PubMed, strictly off of peer-reviewed literature. He's not making up claims, not taking money from companies that hype up a trademarked ingredient. That happens. These news articles online, these databases, they're all an ad spin nightmare. We know that being in business, it's all buying, selling, and trading information to get in front of your eyes. Examine.com, is an amazing resource. I'm also going to send Dr. Sotelo the Examine.com fitness guide. It is a textbook in PDF format that is amazing for communicating these nutrient deficiencies, for understanding these supplements, how they help, could they be beneficial? That would be the ultimate index for you guys to have when you're working with clients. Because at some point, you're going to work with somebody who has a question about supplements. It's just going to happen. I mean, it's a $5 billion industry. There's no way it's not going to get brought up. For you guys at least have a glossary with you, an index to have like, hey, I don't know the answer right now, but let me pull this up. So I'm going to send that to him. Hopefully he can send it to y'all. Thank you guys for having me. If y'all have any questions, I will listen and answer.
I got a lot of questions on these because I think it is such a deep world. If you need the Jacob contact information, going to be on there. If you want any questions, if you show up to the story, you might put you on his content.
Y'all have Instagram? Every Tuesday is Q&A Tuesday. I do on the story. Go ask me a question because I answer it live every day. Ask me a supplement question for real. My Instagram is just The Nutrition Store LLC. I preliminarily apologize for the content that I post because sometimes it is offensive. But the point is to get your attention. I want to teach you guys stuff. I've been talking for another 15 minutes. I love this. I like talking to y'all. I like teaching. So use me as a friend. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Lee.